I've not dreamt like this, ever. This is the first time I've dreamed of being another person, seeing, thinking, talking, and acting as someone other than myself. It was very unusual and quite disconcerting. I'm plagued with the thoughts and emotions that have come from being inside another person. But I'll think this dream out as best I can. I'll hook up the memory play and capture as many of the images as I can recall. But it's still very uncomfortable being someone other than myself. Now that I'm getting to think things out more, I can recall that it was not exactly a person that I was a part of. More of, well, this is the hardest part. Probably what makes things so disconcerting for me. I was seeing and feeling things through the being of an angel. That is, an angel at first, then later a fallen angel. From what I can tell, the whole dream was like an encapsulation of the life of one of God's heavenly servants. Even worse yet, one who had chosen to rebel long before mankind was given dominion over the earth. This is strange to me. I will try to speak of what I saw as best I can. Here goes. I was walking along the fields of heaven long ago, even way before time was brought into being. Everywhere I looked, I could see nothing but beauty and wonder, everything pure and unspoiled, everything perfect and in place. Looking back in the dream, I can see that it was impossible for anything to be out of place. The grass and flowers were all perfect in form, sight, scent, and function, whatever function each had. Being there, one could feel that everything had a purpose and was aware of why it was there. All things were alive and enjoyed being part of the larger whole. The various animals enjoyed the form they had been given and communicated to one another in their own ways. The trees seemed to sing in the light of a warm breeze. A stream of cool water trickled by with a kind of laughter as it danced toward an enormous crystal-clear ocean. I hear voices whispering behind me. I turn to see two beautiful and wondrous beings. They have arms and legs like others. They have a head with eyes and mouths, and they are intelligent and perfect as well. The two of them look at me, waiting for an answer. I move a little closer and ask again what was the question. They laugh and they tell me of the morning star who wishes to overthrow our master creator, the Most High, and gain control of this place of perfection. I laugh at the thought, then turn to leave. I think to myself that such a thing is quite impossible, for the Most High knows all that goes on in this place, and that no one could ever sit above him here. Why would anybody ever think they could? I walk along the stream and look back at the two beings of light. They wave, then go back to whispering and scheming. I see behind them the distant city of light, then turn to continue my walk, appreciating the beauty of the things I see and know of. But soon I find myself thinking that perhaps it would be a good idea to have a certain amount of say in what goes on here, perhaps even to create something of wonder in the landscape. After all, I'm more than capable of it. I can think, and I can create. I can do something equally as well as anyone else here. Sure, I say to myself, why not? Then, as I turn back to the others, I'm standing right in front of the morning star. He smiles at me and tells me he had been with me all along. He knew what I was going to decide, and deep down inside, I believe he was with me all the time. Maybe, I feel, he put the thoughts into my head. It felt almost as if he knew exactly what I was going to think, how I was going to think, and even when I was going to think it. In the dream, being the angel creature I was, I even began to think that the angel they call the morning star was indeed just like the Most High, and in some ways better than the Most High. The morning star knew what it was like to move about in the vastness of this perfect place, but the Most High, well, I don't recall him ever leaving the city. The morning star touched my shoulder and told me where to meet with others and how we were to take over the perfect place. Many moments later, I was in my domicile of rest and solitude. A like-minded being passed by the hallway. He stopped and looked into my place and told me that there were many others who were gathering in the great hall of meetings. Then he left. I looked about my place and took several large and long objects I could use to help me take over the city. Then I left to join the others. In the hall of meetings, there were countless thousands upon thousands of us. I looked around at the many, and I thought it ironic that we should meet in the very place where we would join in to celebrate the Most High. That was when I realized something. Why did the Most High not do anything about our meeting in secret? Why did the Most High not put an end to our plans of conquest? It was because of his very silence that I pondered with the thoughts of whether the Most High was indeed as all-powerful as I had come to believe. Then I began to think that perhaps the morning star was even more powerful. A hand touched my shoulder. It was him, Lucifer, the morning star. He smiled at me once again, and I knew that he was indeed as powerful as he had shown that he could be. I knew then that taking over the City of Lights would be far easier than I first imagined. Then I heard the sounds of many horses and chariots outside the hall of meetings. The walls seemed to turn invisible, and I could see beyond them. There were thousands upon thousands of other beings of light who had not listened to the words of Lucifer. They stood fast in their commitment to the Most High. Then those sounds came to an end. Then the sounds of thousands of swords being unsheathed echoed throughout the city. I knew then that a battle was about to take place. That was when it happened. A deafening roar erupted, and all I can remember was a lot of motion and my being swept outside into the city streets. The fight continued, and I recall striking many of the opposing beings. It continued on for many moments, and eventually we ended up outside the city walls, alongside the crystal ocean. At some moments, some of us would rest to regain strength. Then we would fight on. When any being was struck with an implement or a weapon, their skin covering would break open and spill out the life-light within them. They would need to rest and tend their wounds. I saw some of my companions continuously striking an opposing being until he could no longer move, until he no longer had the same glow as we all did. He became just shell, an empty, lifeless covering. His inner life force went out to somewhere only his Creator knows. I rested from the battle and could see on the heights overlooking the ocean the figures of Lucifer and Michael. They were closely engaged in battle, the two most powerful beings of light created. Soon, however, the Most High interceded and lit up the vastness of perfection with a blast and roar of a new thing. I had not seen anything like it before. It was fire, and it was magnificent. It shone orange, red, and white, and I could feel its presence from a great distance away. The fire then swept down the midst of the battle and separated the rebels from the obedient. It surrounded us completely and engulfed us. I felt pain for the first time, and I did not enjoy the sensation. It burned and scorched, and I suffered a great deal. When the fires died down, I looked about at my companions and saw that they had been changed from beings of light to beings of misshapen ugliness. We had become beings of darkness. This ugliness was also new to me. I had never known such a thing as deformity, pain, suffering, or rebellion. It seemed to me that the ways of Lucifer were indeed new and beautiful in a perverse way. I felt a momentary sadness at the loss of perfection, but gained strength from knowing that Lucifer was now my new leader and would take us to another place of perfection. Above us, in the fires of rage, there appeared a black opening. It was empty and contained nothing I could see or make out, just a void of empty nothingness. Then we were immediately surrounded by a large and loud white light. It sparked with long white cracks like arms or forks. It shook with the force and power of what I can only describe as concentrated fire. It shocked and pierced our very beings. It was called lightning. It streaked down from the fires and separated several of the beings of darkness. The strongest and most angered were bound and carried away into a black abyss. Then the lightning carried us away from the place we'd come to know. I looked outside the light as best I could. That was when I saw the place of perfection leaving us. The purity of the city of light was gone. The light of perfection disappeared, and I saw another new thing, the complete absence of color, the disappearance of light. I could see nothing in this thing called blackness. Soon I caught a glimpse of millions of tiny points of lights amidst the blackness. Then I could see a large golden blue sphere heading toward us, or more correctly stated, I could see we were heading toward the sphere. As we drew closer, I could feel its grip and its pull as it grew larger. Then we hit its surface and exploded into many different directions. The impact knocked us silent and motionless for some moments. Unable to move, we lost all consciousness. Then we started to wake, slowly, one by one. We entered into a brand new realm of existence. On this blue ball, we could feel the pull of gravity. We could hear the limited sounds of the things around us. The plants and animals that we could see made only small sounds, and nothing felt as it did in the perfect place. I could feel cold and heat, and a brand new sense hit my being hard and fast. I could feel something different in the surrounding and inside of me. I could only describe the feeling as being inside of a thing called time. I felt trapped and limited. I felt like a slave, as though it was a burdensome task just to exist inside of it. My whole being felt as though the vastness of this new place and the universe around us was closing in on me. I felt as though my time in here was limited and that one day I would no longer be a part of it, no longer a part of anything. But nonetheless, I finally felt freedom from the pain of the concentrated fire of lightning. One by one, we all stood to our feet and listened to our new leader, Lucifer. He told us that this place was now ours, and we could do anything we wanted with it. Though the things around us were ephemeral, we could still create and build and develop them into whatever we chose to. We cheered in exultation. This is punishment, I thought to myself. Finally, a world we could call our own. That's when it happened. The fire raged across the sky, and flashes of lightning appeared as the voice of the Most High spoke to us. He told us we had been imprisoned within time on this planet he called Earth. He said that our punishment for our rebellion was to suffer in agony, watching the world develop into a shape determined by something called man. The Most High told us that this man, this thing, was weaker than we are, frail in comparison, and not nearly as intelligent. But what bothered us most was that he said this new world had been given to them, not to us. Our place was in the limited emptiness of the air above us. Our domicile was the air and clouds. We could do nothing on this planet. We could build nothing. We could develop nothing. We could create nothing. This angered us all. In his heart, I could feel that Lucifer no longer wished to use the name of his former glory. He did not want to be called the morning star. He chose to be the adversary of God. I knew then that he was to be called Satan. When the Most High left us, we searched out this thing called man. We searched the entire surface of the planet and could see nothing but large and gigantic beasts in the air, land, and water. Beasts who did nothing but eat plants and each other. They were of little use to us. Eventually, we came across a garden filled with beauty and perfection. It reminded us of our former home. It felt and looked very much like the place inside eternity. Then we saw man. They were indeed small, weak, and frail. One had limbs and appendages that differed from the other. We spent much time watching and learning from them. We saw the things they did and the way they did them. We listened to their words and learned how they thought and why they thought the way they did. They were very stupid compared to us, and they too had the power of will to choose right or wrong. For many moments in this time, they tended the garden and caused it and the animals to flourish. And during all this time, we watched them very closely. Eventually, the adversary learned that he could influence how they perceived things. He appeared invisible to their naked eyes and learned how to move with great stealth, like a long, sleek, and slender animal, a snake thing. Through that conversation, Satan learned that man too could choose to obey or disobey the Most High. This was the perfect way to destroy man, the garden, and the planet they were on. If Satan could not have perfection, and if he were imprisoned here, he was not going to make it easy for anybody. If he couldn't have perfection, why should anybody else? And sure enough, it happened. Soon, man too was banished from the perfect garden. The Most High sentenced the adversary to eventual obliteration, to be destroyed by a so-called Savior, but he gave no date. This man was of little consequence to Satan. Soon he was controlling the children of Adam and Eve to do things the Most High did not approve of. Many moments in time passed. A great flood came and wiped out all the work the adversary had achieved, all we had done. Wicked man was gone from the earth. So we waited to see what would happen next. So far, no savior of mankind. It was not that Noah person. We made sure of that when the land did appear. When people are drunk, they are stupid. Then, in the dream, I felt everything go black and fill with fire again. I saw many more battles and many more days of man killing man, many more days of the beings of light fighting against the beings of darkness. I could see many days of the dark ones taunting and tempting man, causing him to be further separated from the Most High. A time came upon the earth when the place of perfection opened up, and I could see the Most High becoming a man on the earth. It was the Savior. But we soon had him killed and gone. Then the last battle came. The one-world earth we had created through man was in jeopardy. Satan knew that his time had finally come. So we fought once again with the beings of light on the face of the earth like never before. We also knew that it was to be our last days on earth. Our eternal destiny was at hand. That was when the Most High descended, and once again all went black. I was imprisoned in the darkness of the abyss. For some time I saw nothing but blackness and heard nothing but the silence of my own thoughts and the deep feelings of hatred for the ones who had imprisoned me here. Eventually, the blackness was pierced with a tiny point of light. The light grew, and soon I was standing in a valley with a mountain high and wide surrounding me on all sides. All the beings of darkness covered the valley floor, while beings of a new light covered the sides of the mountain. These new beings I recognized as humans I myself had tempted to fall into sin. I knew now that this was the time of judgment for my kind. Ever since the days of our banishment, I knew that someday this would happen, and that the redeemed human beings would be our judges. I did not know what to do or think. I could only stand there and listen to the sentence passed down to each one of us. I looked up to the skies above and could see nothing but a deep, dark blue swirling around in an infinite void of blackness. I knew that even if I were to run up over the mountain, I would see nothing there. I didn't know exactly where we were, but I knew it was far from the place of perfection I had chose to abandon. I knew that forever I would be separated from the life I once knew but could now barely remember. Then my time of judgment fell upon me. Everything I had done was recalled. All those I had killed and caused to be killed. Those I had led down the wrong path, and those I had misled for the sake of their own damnation. Everything had been revealed, even the secrets I held deep within my own heart. Then it appeared again. The fire of rage blasted upward around the mountain valley and filled the skies with anger and, oddly, disappointment. I felt the most shame knowing that I had intentionally and willfully disappointed my Creator. But then, the more I thought about His goodness, the more I hated Him for His condemning me to an eternity apart from Him. And for what? For choosing as I willed? For that I hated Him the most. Then the fire fell from the skies, and I was once again in pain. And this time I knew it would never end. I woke up at this point.